They want to get it out of the way quick. Move on to the.
I might have to hand this down, so just keep handing down for everybody to get a copy.
Yeah.
Steve won't be here.
Not for president.
No.
Steve
Well,
won't be
he's
here.
still
Oh.
sell things.
Right, yeah.
Good
I
morning.
don't know.
How are
Steve,
you?
Steve is there,
Doing
may-
well.
at least in voice, y'all.
Seems like it's what's, no matter how much sleep I get, still tired. Doesn't matter.
Guys, look good.
I'm with you all.
I don't know what it is.
I was just saying, you guys can't get too comfortable right away because at first,
Yeah.
The change for small courthouse. With.
Hey, Mark Vic, it must be cold there. You still get your coat on.
I took it off. Yeah, I had to go outside and make a call and
Okay.
But these I could.
come back in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great.
You'll have to excuse me. I'm only in a t-shirt.
she's right there.
He is here in the
He isn't
room.
coming back till Sunday, he tells me.
Hi, Steve.
Good morning, y'all. Gee, it's a rough day. I'm dressed in shorts and a t-shirt, you know.
Yeah, that looks fine.
Hey, it's gonna be balmy here today, maybe above 30. If it's not
I know.
already.
You're getting, I heard a story this morning about barefoot in December in Wyoming in 1867.
Oh, my.
It was so warm over there in December that the kids were running around barefoot, and all the wood that they had cut, they couldn't get across the river because there was no ice, so they could sell it to the railroad.
Oh, no.
And they didn't even have fossil fuel available yet.
Right.
Six.
There's.
Is that it?
Reports that.
Yes, and that, I like that, because I think that puts us in a little bit of a pinch for justification. That's one of them. I mean, I am concerned about that. I just don't know. I am concerned about that, but I just think. How do we?
What? Yeah, there's second.
This is set up. There's nothing we're gonna do about it. It's historical.
Yeah, we got a stack of them.
See, we're not gonna replace this. Yes, yeah, you guys have fun. Hopefully. Us doesn't. Sticker shock.
It's one of those ones.
Oh, have this completed.
It's more than cheap. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I have it all filled out at home, but
Wires back.
this doesn't do me.
I do too.
If I don't bring it back.
Yeah, I think that would be a good. Yeah, and bring them along, they wasn't somebody hits it because it couldn't see.
It's like what we-
In a plastic sleeve.
Take one home
Yeah,
that
sure,
day.
she, the butler did his job. Yeah.
Take the one home that day, right?
I think so.
I mean, I assume that.
I'll just spend probably.
Yep, yep.
This is.
Here.
Huh.
Yep, I'll jump in.
Trying to recognize the building. To see what part it is.
About 20 after 9.
Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Royalty comes.
That's, yeah.
For the strategic vehicle.
Not sure what that matched.
Steve is gonna be on.
Steve's online, yes.
So we need to create a different link then for the closed session. Because otherwise, anybody from the public can be here.
Yeah.
So Fatima,
Unless Steve doesn't want to sit in on the closed
then we
session.
could just turn it, pause it and start again.
Is that, what
But
do you,
Andy's on there too.
oh,
So Andy and Steve, our first item is a closed session, but if we're gonna do that and have you guys on, we need to create a different link so the public can't join in.
Yeah, why don't you, can you just send that off to us?
Yeah, so Fatima, can you pause when we go into closed session, can you pause I'm assuming you're listening, I can't hear you, but pause the regular session and create a link for a closed session and send it to Andy and Steve. And then record that. Fatima?
well, let's do the pledge. Let's get through that, call the meeting to order, then we'll come to the closed session. All those that so choose. stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All meeting to order with 4 present and 1 electronically online. The first agenda item this morning will be a closed session.
Hey, Fatima, we need to create a new link for a closed session, and that new link needs to be sent to Steve and Andy to their email. Thank you.
And we need to
Oh,
record it.
And we need to record that closed session. Just a moment. No, we're about to go into closed session right now. Thank you.
So I move to go into closed session according to Iowa code.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go into closed session authorized by Iowa Code 21.51K. All those in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Just before we do that, I think, but I'm not sure, going into closed session is roll call. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that was something that the public health
Yeah.
had.
Okay.
Holly recommended.
Aye.
I,
Steve?
Aye.
I also.
that one thing was brought to our attention.
Thank you.
So I thought, well.
Oh, you
Sure.
should pay attention.
Yeah, as long as we are, we must
Might as well do it right.
do it right.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I didn't know that.
Or did I?
No.
Now we'll have to sign off when Fatima's ready and pause this recording. And we'll have to go on to a different recording. So that I didn't know that we were gonna have remote people. So because I knew Mark Paula wasn't gonna be here, so
So those of you online, we're going to go into closed session, so there won't be any live feed, but we will be back on after the closed session in about 15, 20
Yeah.
minutes, maybe
Yeah,
even just 10 minutes. So Fatima, pause this meeting.
Yeah, she
Please.
has sent me a new link, so I will bow out of this one and come back.
Andy must have too. I see you left this one. So Fatima, are you gonna control this one and sign in the other link, or should we do it from here?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Should I do it now?
Yep, you can do it now and make sure you record it. Thank you.
Over here. Mark held that here today? No,
No.
no, okay.
Steve will be on.
Yep. Morning, Steve.
Good
I
morning.
move to approve the courthouse security plan.
I second.
Second,
Yeah.
You take it before you want.
I'll give it to Steve since he's got a delay and we don't, he won't get as many.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the Winneshiek County Security Plan, which is confidential. I will do a roll call on it just because.
It is
It is a resolution, okay. Shirley?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Steve?
aye.
And I also. Passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Andy, do you have anything for us this morning?
I do not. How about you?
I do not. Does anyone else have anything for Andy?
No.
I don't. Are you open to a phone call this week sometime?
If we can avoid Thursday, I'll be good.
Yes, of course.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. We're almost back on schedule here.
If Michael can get done in 5 or in 10 minutes or whatever, yeah.
You got every 10
Mike
minutes.
Kueny, County Engineer, is the next agenda item. Go ahead, Mike.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
You too.
It's not a lot to report on. Although there's some important things. Winneshiek County is no longer finalist for the build grant. I think I passed on the information to an email to the board earlier this week. Had a meeting on Friday. The idea is that we will resubmit. We will have to pay $3,000 out of pocket to have Kimley Horn reapply for the 2026. I think it's 2026 build grant. There's a lot of good things in that grant, so we're looking at reapplying just the same package. Details are uncertain on that. I would imagine that it just moves the project back 1 year. I am not certain of that, though. That is something that will be figured out. I will need to put on the agenda for next meeting whether to vote on to be part of that again. So that would be a board decision to reapply for that grant. So that'll be on the next board agenda. I found out all this out this morning.
Is there anything you can add to it to make it more eye appealing to them, or?
Well, because it's not just Winneshiek County, it's five different counties. I'm going to be taking cues from the grants committee. Already the difference in the grant requirements, they want beautification, and then the meeting on Friday, I just mentioned that, putting prairie grasses and things like that as part of the grant. And then,
So I have a question. Is there were like so many statewide, say like whatever it was, half a dozen statewide. We were one of the finalists and they took some of them, but not ours. Is that what happened?
No, so there was 2 applications. I think our application has 5 counties involved.
Yeah, I knew it was something like that. Okay.
And so the other application
Package.
also has 5 counties. And both of them got passed on.
Oh, they both got passed on.
Oh,
I was gonna say, if one of them got and the other one didn't, then that would automatically move us up.
Right, and that is my understanding.
Okay.
There's what's happening with the other one is, that's about the extent of what I.
Okay, I
What
just
I've
didn't know
heard.
if some of them got approved and just not ours, but that
No.
makes a difference in how
So
we.
it's the package. So the package was passed on, because it was a project of merit and because not a lot has changed on the NOFO. They think it's an excellent, opportunity to just resubmit for this. It'll put all of the years, 1 year back on aging and everything else. So it'll look better that way. Again,
Maybe
a couple of small tweaks in the NOFO.
Presumably somebody got build grants across the country, so in the nationwide, a few of the ones ahead of us are gonna get funded in 2025, which will maybe bring up the
Correct.
rest of them.
And then ours, because it's aging, it'll also, I think, so I think this is I mean, my recommendation would be to spend the money on reapplying, being part of that package. To a little bit more color, one of the issues on our specific grant was that the benefit cost analysis that came in, we were relatively low. The package of 5, not the Winneshiek counties, but the package of 5 was relatively low. And their discount rate in the new NOFO for the resubmission makes that, it actually drops that. So just to be, it drops that from 2.52 to 1.88. I just got those numbers 5 minutes ago, so I don't have a whole lot of color that I can provide on that. So it's the benefit cost is just one small portion. We're talking like not even 10% of the actual considerations, but that did happen. The government is choosing a different discount rate that raised it up from, I don't remember what the previous one is, but to a 7% rate. So that's what I know on that first line item. Railroad flat car bridge study coordination. We got a Bear Creek analysis. It was similar to the other one that I had sent out previously that came last week. So that will require some coordination with Iowa State to determine what it is, where we need to go from there. So I'll be talking to them this week and then in between Christmas and New Year's on that. So that's something that's upcoming. Subdivision data. Heard back from farmers, looking at 1350 a square yard to improve that subdivision. From here, I've had a conversation with Mike O'Hara to possibly work with the HOAs and have the whole subdivision be worked in together. That's just started. I saw that I missed a phone call on Friday with him, so more information will be forthcoming on that. The Olendike subdivision is also something I'm targeting out there southeast of Ridgeway. So we'll have more information going forward. But again, a lot of this stuff happened towards the end of the week last week. So stay tuned to that one. Quarry Hill, I met with Andy on that. We're ironing how the transactions want to occur. It's a surveying legal best option types of things. It's nothing effectual that I can talk about right now because it's all discussions, but that occurred this past week. And then I want to say thank you to the foreman and the office managers. They coordinated a grant submission to the TCUP to buy new chainsaws for the crew. The grant was submitted on Wednesday. and I was very hands off on that, so. Many thanks to, like I said, the foreman and the office managers. And then I have a draft amendment, that's in your roads, for 2026. I am working on 2027's, budget as we speak. We'll be working on that for today and tomorrow, and then, it will probably be gone on Friday. I haven't nailed that down, but most likely I'll be gone on Friday. So,
And the board's not meeting next week, so we got time.
yes, I'm doing plans and trying to figure out, some family things that are going on at the household. So I don't know what my schedule is beyond, beyond Thursday. So, Thursday is not sure if I'm gonna be in town or if I'm gonna be up in Rochester. So I'm still, my own schedule's a little bit up in the air. But I will be traveling. One more thing that, I forgot to include on this, report, Bridge 307. That's in between Ridgeway and Decorah here. It's, we got the, letting that came in about 15%. It's $1.47 million. Our engineers, probable cost was 1.27. That's about a 15% increase. I have because it's more than 10% over expected cost, I have a option to reject all bids. I've spoken with the DOT and bridge pricing, generally speaking, and I can't reveal too much because there's certain.
Which bridge is that?
It's that closed bridge on is it 230th? So, or on, I'd have to pull it up here. It's the closed bridge. It's been closed out by Pinter's residence.
Oh.
So that's
Basically, bids are public records.
They are.
Either you accept one or reject or right.
and the itemized bid tabs have not come out yet, so I can't really speak on anything else. I anticipate them coming out either today or tomorrow, so we should put on the agenda for the January meeting, either to accept it or not accept it as well.
Bridge 307 bids.
Yep.
You said that was right, 1.4 or something like that?
1.47. So that's coming from the highway bridge program funding. So that
If you take one that's too high now, it might push something else back in the program later because you have a cap.
correct. There's a cap on it. The other bridge, the Pleasant View Bridge, got pushed back to letting on November for a couple of reasons. So that bridge balance is that's really not a big concern because that got pushed back. But again, it is a closed bridge and things are operating okay throughout the county. Without it, in analyzing the nearby bridges around it, they want it open to
Take the
brunt of
pressure off them.
those bridges. Yes, it's kind of a level of service kind of an idea. So
Before all of a sudden one of them.
correct. If one of them gets closed and all of a sudden we have a good bridge there is the idea. It gives us the connectivity. And I was concerned with the high cost and then talking to the DOT. They thought everything looked reasonable, and bridges, in the last 9 to 12 months have kind of those prices have been kind of flatlining, and this is in line with that. So I was trying to make sure that that was in fact still the case. So the price that was bid was not high in their eyes. So, yes, so that is the report. I don't know, am I
I'm fine.
making up time?
Right on,
good.
You're right on the money.
Okay, well, that's it. I might take a kolache.
Take two, they're
I'll
good.
take one for that.
Sounds like the weather's supposed to be nice. You shouldn't have to worry about the weather during the Christmas break.
Thank you.
I hear it's supposed to become warm.
Warm, yeah.
Last week we had -30 wind chills, and then we're gonna have melting snow on Christmas. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Next item on the agenda, 10:15, Faith VA Administrator, with a budget review. Good morning, Faith.
Good morning. Okay. Do Steve and Mark have like mailbox lot?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can give them to me, I'll throw them in quick.
There's
Just
there are a
copy for
few.
you.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, sure. Okay. All right, so with budget, we would like to ask for a few small increases. We have not asked for any increases in the last 12 years, except for the flag holder last year. Due to that is due to some of just the increasing costs of some of the stuff going up. So with the few items that we'd like to increase, to also note, we're just needing to increase it a little bit, not as much as we normally would, because due to it, the state grant funds, we can help offset with that. So the ones that we were looking at for an increase is $55 to the VetraSpec line item. That is our veteran software program, and that's increased for just the user fees for the year. The newspaper line item to increase that by $500. Due to that, just cost continuing to go up for ads and all of that, and being that we haven't done it for the last 12 years and with the grant money, but with the cost going up, we want to be able to offset so we can continue to do our outreach to absorb a little bit of that. The same with mileage, to increase that by $1,000. Some of that just with the mileage rates going up. So back when we did it before, it was 40 cents per mile. Now it's 70 currently. And also with the hotels, with our education line item to increase that with $1,000. Some of that just doing with the rates going up with hotels over the years. The Iowa Department of Veterans Affairs and our Iowa Association is adding additional training. So we're going to have one coming up in February. There'll be another one in May of next year that we know of for sure. And then the Iowa Department of Veterans Affairs has increased our required CEUs for the, excuse me, for the year as well. So the total of those would be $2,555. The Hlubek County VA also increased the van stipend. So the van goes through the Iowa City VA Medical Center through their volunteer services. So they want to increase that, or they actually have already approved it, to pay the van driver $60. So it was $60 per day. They've increased it to $100 per day. Heather from Hlubek County said that they haven't increased that fee for the driver in 20 years. And there's a shortage of van drivers, so we're also hoping that this will maybe increase and get some more people that would be able to drive down to Iowa City. So with that one, with the increase with that, so that'll be on for next month's commission meeting for the commission just to formally approve it. I mean, Hlubek already set the rate, but just to acknowledge because we pay it for our veterans that take the van from Winneshiek County. So that'll be approved likely at our January meeting, but with our budget, the budget already reflects for that increase so that I don't need an actual increase on that line item. But I just wanted you guys to be aware that that likely is going to go.
You haven't been spending very much out of that line item, so there's plenty there, is
Yep.
what you're saying.
Yep. And then the other one would be with Joseph Breitenstein, our contracted licensed psychologist, asked for a COLA increase starting for the new fiscal year, $50 per month. So with that, it's the same within our budget. We didn't have to actually ask for an increase because with the increase of the $50 per month will also reflect the budget that the money is already in there, so we don't need an increase to that line item. But I wanted you guys to be aware that the commission did approve that. And then that'll go forth to Andy to do a new contract to reflect all of that. And then the rest we just asked to remain the same. And what we don't use rolls back into the general fund, but they're needed there for veteran services if we need to. So that's more of like the bottom part of the budget. So as if it doesn't have any questions on the budget itself, then I'll go into like my budget notes and GDX report and stuff that I share with you guys each year.
I don't have any questions on this. Thank you for budgeting.
Okay, so the next one then is with the budget notes. So this is off like with the GDX report. So this is for fiscal year 2024. So the GDX is the geographic distribution of VA expenditures. So this shows dollar amounts of benefits coming into the community. These aren't 100% accurate, but they're a good tool as they go by the zip code where the veteran resides. And they don't report veterans who go to other VA medical centers from another area. It doesn't track veterans who are not using any VA services, and it doesn't include veterans or dependents we assist from other counties. Those figures don't reflect on our county section of the GDX report. So with Winneshiek County, so the veteran population, I kind of go back and do a comparison. So also this only tracks veterans enrolled in a VA system. So for GDX 2024, so again, just to kind of refresh, it's always a year behind. So that's why I'm always doing 24 and not the current. Shows 970 for 2023. I have two figures here. So they have changed how they do the GDX report. So you'll see that in the next pages when I go through it. The format is completely different. They're doing it to collect different data and supposed to be a better accurate insight. So for 2023, off the old GDX report, the veteran population for Winneshiek County showed 933. For curiosity, I went back with a new report to do a comparison for 2023, and it showed 995. I don't know how they come off that far with the figures. I've tried to email.
2024 is the new report.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. But I wanted to put both on there because I went off the old GDX report, which actually showed it on the report. Now we have to go out to a separate like web link to get that information. So out of curiosity, I just went back to 23 and yeah. And then I emailed the Veteran Statistic Analysis Center to try to ask why there was so much of a difference. I never got a response. So.
You already know it's not completely accurate because of the zip code thing. I mean, we have a corner of our county that's Postville zip code, and we've got, other areas we got.
Well, and that's just like,
That's
I know,
fine.
like previous in the year, I kind of shared like some of the large retros that some veterans get. So one of them, which was $116,000, was just their retro amount. That veteran's not from our county, so that won't reflect on Winneshiek County numbers. It'll go on the other county, even though our office did all the work. So it's a good tool, but yes, it's not going to be 100% accurate.
There's areas with the Protovin zip code. There's going to be areas with Cresco zip code, and there's going to be areas even used to have some that were in Minnesota zip codes, but they did change that.
And I wonder if there's some like close over by Walk-On too that they, so when you share a zip code, we don't know which county gets the credit on the report. We don't know. And then for the GDX distribution, so then this would be a comparison for compensation and pension. So for GDX report 2024, compensation and pension was $6,205,456. And then the previous year for 2023 GDX, compensation and pension was $5,361,000. So that was an increase of $844,456 from the comparison from one to the other year. Compensation and pension are federal monies paid to the veterans and the dependents within our county. The next part goes down is County Veterans Affairs 2025. So this is more of the current year, what we try to track. So this is a report of VA federal monies for veterans and dependents who have reported back to our office. So this amount is not all inclusive, as we can always only track the veterans and dependents who inform our office of a grant by the U.S. Department of Veterans Administration. So if a veteran doesn't inform our office, we have no way of tracking it. These are for the current year for new claims and increases granted by the VA. So for 2025, we had $1,538,780 compared to 2024 was $1,213,260. So that was an increase of $325,520. So that's the current year we're currently in. With any veterans that came back with a grant of award, then we keep a tracking system for that. These VA monies are paid to the veterans and dependents to be spent in the community or how they see fit. This saves the veterans and dependents money and can stimulate the community. This allows the veterans to pay property taxes, purchase a home, buy a vehicle, and much more. So it's to spend money here. The next part I kind of go into is just some office stats. So these numbers do not reflect deceased or scanned files that have been removed to make room in the file cabinets within the office. So for 2025, active files was 1,011. Pending was 54 for pending files. Compared to 2024, we had 945 active and 52 pending. I always just like to put out there too, so you guys aren't wondering, 52 or 54 pending claims. So that's a drawer that we keep separate when we're waiting for information back from a veteran. We keep those in the pending file so they don't get in the regular file, so they don't get like maybe forgotten about, or so we can follow up. And then what we do is we usually do 2 to 3 follow-up letters every month or every 2 months to just let the veteran know, hey, we're still waiting for additional information before we can draft the formal claim paperwork. So it's a nice friendly reminder to them. And then if we don't hear something back after the 2 to 3 follow-up letters, then we just file it in the regular file. So it's still there if they would come back later, but we try to follow up with them so that we can get all the necessary paperwork to do a formal claim for them. The other one then, the next office stats is for phone calls and office stops. So these numbers are logged to the best of our ability. So if we get really busy and there's more people come in one after another, we might not log each stop or call, but we try to do our best. So for 2025, phone calls was 2,742. Office stops was 1,467. In 2024, phone calls was 3,185 and office stops was 1,699. And then the last one is the veteran designation stop. So these will decrease as veterans get them added to their driver's license or a non-driver ID card. So for 2025, we had 54 for the year, and then last year was 57. So the numbers are actually, I'm surprised, still staying up pretty high. But it also depends on the cycle when they renew, if it's every 2 years, 4 years, 6. I'm not sure how much of a spread the driver's license does, but they ask them that when they renew if they don't have it on there, and then they have the option to decline it too if they don't want to add it. And then they can always add it at any other time as well. Other than that, that's all I had. Unless anybody has any questions for me.
Faith, I do.
Yep.
For the interest of the public, I know you and I had a conversation about the recovery amounts that you were able to get in total. And I know we're not going to discuss anything about individuals, but would you mind sharing that with the public so they understand what your office is able to do for veterans during the course of a year?
So some of that is, so with us helping veterans apply for compensation and pension benefits. So both of those where those dollar figures come in is from compensation and pension claims. We also do a lot of other things, applying for healthcare enrollment, that kind of stuff. That doesn't bring any monetary monies in necessarily to the veteran, but compensation and pension can. Compensation is a disability compensation. So either they have incurred an injury or a disease that is caused, resulted, or aggravated due to their military service. Pension benefits, that's a financial need-based program, and then the VA has their own criteria. But what we do is when they come in and we apply for those benefits, it kind of totals into the total lump sum. But I think what Steve's talking about is periodically throughout the year, I'll share with the Board of Supervisors some of the large retro amounts. So when we file a claim for a veteran, depending on what the VA grants for the effective date, so I use the example of the one that was $116,000. That was just the retro of their award that they got from the VA. So that was a brand new award. And then it went back to effective date, and that was one that we actually had to appeal to the Board of Veterans Appeals in Washington DC. So that's why it's a larger amount, because it went back several years. That's just a one-time lump sum of their retro, and then they continue to get their new monthly amount. The nice part with those monies, anything with compensation or pension or any retro, those are all a monetary tax-free benefit. They don't get a 1099 on any of those monies. They don't have to report them on their taxes. Like I said, that's a monetary tax-free benefit. The only time we tell individuals that they may have to report that is if they're applying for financial assistance. Possibly they could. So it's going to depend on each outside entity or organization. So I don't know, did that kind of, you think, help clear it up, Steve?
Yeah, I think the main thing is I want the effectiveness of what you're able to do for the veterans. I want the people to be able to understand that, because yes, you do. You're very good about letting us know, but there's more people out there that should know that your department reaches out, and there's a lot of folks within the county that get some significant help.
Yep. And anytime something changes with the VA, we're always trying to put stuff out in the newspaper, on the radio, that kind of stuff, because the VA is constantly changing things. So say if a veteran applied before and was denied, they should maybe come back and to see if they can reapply. Stuff changes. A big one with VA healthcare, that's been several years ago now, but years ago, they used to look at income, assets, and out-of-pocket medical expenses just for VA healthcare. So essentially, if anybody owned a farm, they were going to be over the asset net worth threshold. Then the VA got rid of that, and they only look at income and out-of-pocket medical expenses. Now, there are a few caveats. It's not always income-based. There could be something like if a veteran served just boots on ground in Vietnam, we can automatically enroll them. They just go into Priority Group 6 and pay copays. But then they don't have to provide any income. So it's not always income-based. So I always tell the veteran it's best to, come into our office, or if they're from another county, go to their county VA office. So every county in Iowa has a county Veterans Affairs office to find out with that, or if they can meet some of that other criteria. Sometimes if we can file a disability claim and that gets 10% or higher, that's another way we can get them in for VA healthcare, but they just pay copays. So we try every aspect that we can to get veterans all the benefits that they are entitled and eligible to apply for. So
That's pretty obvious, because when you look at the 23 numbers, that's 5.3 million, and this year was 6.2 million.
Yeah.
Which is.
And we're still doing pretty good, holding pretty high with the numbers. So like back a few years ago, I don't remember what those numbers were. They were quite high too. That was after the PACT Act went through. We're still seeing some, but the majority of those with the PACT Act, we've applied for those benefits and gotten them the benefits. But if any veterans' health situation changes and they become diagnosed with something on a presumptive list, we could always still file for it in the future. Doesn't mean if they weren't eligible before, doesn't mean they can't be in the future, if that kind of makes sense. So.
Thank you for your work.
Yeah.
You have a sense that you have most of the veteran population in Winneshiek County aware of the benefit you have in the office?
I would sure hope so. I know each year we do 2 different newspaper inserts. We do one in May and then one in November. Those go to every doorstep in Winneshiek County, so it's 100% of coverage, and that goes in the free paper. So even if somebody doesn't subscribe to the subscription newspaper or one of the other ones, they would still get that free one, the Driftless. And then periodically, like when we do our open house, that's in June, we always invite people to come up, and that's kind of a come and go event. So I don't feel like if they don't want to stay the whole time, they don't have to. But I always feel like there's always veterans out there that we can still always improve and try to get them to look at benefits. Or sometimes veterans are, I don't want to say necessarily upset with the VA, but they sometimes don't like the system, and sometimes how it can be very hard to navigate through the federal system. And that's where if they come into our office, we're able to help them and navigate through. We do a bunch of the training and stuff that helps us to do that. Or just point of contacts at the right facility. So if there's something, if they have an issue with like something with VA healthcare, we have resources where we can point them in the right direction to get people that can help them.
How many staff do you have?
There's only 2 of us.
Doing wonderful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So, all right. Nobody else has any other questions?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Yes.
You want to take a cookie or a kolache?
No, I gotta watch my sweets. Thank you.
See you guys.
See ya.
All right, next up, we have a few miscellaneous things. First of which is a Board of Health appointment. I know, Steve, you had some questions on this.
So we have two applications. The applications were forwarded to the Board of Health, and the Board of Health took action at one of their last couple meetings to recommend appointment of Mary Payne.
What's
Right.
Mary Payne's
Yeah.
background?
She's a retired registered nurse.
Thank you. I move to approve the recommendation of the Board of Health to appoint Mary Payne to the Board of Health.
We appoint.
Hmm?
We will appoint, not the Board of Health to.
No, they're recommending and we're
Okay.
appointing. Did I not say that?
Not exactly.
Oh, that's fine.
I knew what you meant.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Mary Payne to the Board of Health. Is there any further discussion?
Is this something from the Board of Health?
Yeah,
Those are minutes.
this is just a minute. It said the Board of Health reviewed the applications of the Board of Health term that is up at the end of December 2025. The consensus of the Board of Health was to recommend Mary Payne to the Board of Supervisors for appointment to the board.
And who is she replacing?
Jay Elster.
Thank you.
He applied, but he had for personal reasons. He said if we have another one. Yeah,
Please withdraw.
we would approve.
Anyone have any other questions or comments? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have discuss Board of Health appropriations.
And so I had some handouts here related to this. So if you recall, when you did appropriations in June for the next fiscal year, so our current fiscal year, you appropriated 350,000 about. We have to do it as a percentage. We can't do a dollar amount. So it's about 350,000 of their 640,000 budget. So at some point, you need to appropriate them more money or amend the budget to take the money away. But Mark asked if we need, how close they were and if we needed to get this done really soon. So I did run the reports, and if we do, they do still have about 96,000, so almost 100,000 of what you appropriated left. So it isn't like it's dire that you need to do this now because we got to quit paying their payroll or paying their bills or something. But that may not last through the end of the year.
Well, and I think some of that was too, Mark and I were talking about a little bit, and I probably gave him the wrong information, but I thought it had to be done by the first.
No, last year what we did is we did the same thing last year. You appropriated half of their budget at the beginning of the year, July 1. And then we actually were able to wait till April when we did the budget amendment because they didn't run out of money in the meantime or go over what you wanted them to spend or whatever. So I think we're okay right this minute, but I do need to, if we're going to appropriate them more funds, I need to know ahead of time so I can prepare a resolution that says how much more you're giving them. So I figured it's worth talking about and keeping in mind that the initial amount you gave them probably won't make it through the end of the year, but it may make it for another couple months. So, you know, we can kind of talk through this as we go and decide.
Because what I brought up earlier as we were doing the budget was last year they got about 359,000, I think was their.
That sounds about right.
And dollar. So that's what I said, appropriate a flat 375, and they take their income, which is 150, so that'd be probably appropriating a total of 520,000 total. If we did 350 already, another 175, that's where I wanted to be in that flat 350 to 375. That's what we used last year. We got less employees, so
And things have changed a little. They have raised the fees for some of
some
the,
stuff, so
for some of the stuff. So
probably a
that
little more income.
may raise some of the income, so we don't
Yeah.
really know where we're at there.
I think that it's good to talk about it. I think we should revisit it in another month or month and a half, just to see where they're sitting and get ready, because I think you will have to appropriate them some more, or you need to, at some point, need to amend the budget to take money out, because by the end of the year, you're supposed to have appropriated all of the money that's in the budget, but that doesn't mean that you can't amend it lower, which is what we did last year, so.
Yeah, and that's on me. I just didn't.
Yep, no, that's
There
okay.
was a deadline there that we
Yeah.
missed in case we had to.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
the
I'd like to
needs to appropriate the funds and it's has to amend the budget,
Yeah.
so.
Yep.
Any questions or comments, Steve?
Yeah, I agree. I think, later next month, after we've gone through more of the budgeting and so forth, we still had a motion that we put out 6 months ago. We've had no action on that apparently, other than one committee meeting. And so even at the monies we're spending now, we're still spending 4 times what our other counties that have a different relationship with their local hospitals are spending. And so I'd like to still see some action on that. We've had no report back, and that's been an extended period of time. And we directed the Board of Health to make some inquiries with the local health providers for their services instead of completely in-house. So there's an awful lot of turmoil and things going on that surround that area. I'd like to see some things settle down and get some better answers.
Okay. Anyone have anything else on the Board of Health for now? Okay, we'll move on to Upper Explorerland Strategic Planning Contract.
So after your meeting with them a couple weeks ago, they sent this contract. Doesn't have to get done today, but they said if we go ahead and do the contract now, then they'll start getting their calendars lined up so that towards the end of January, early February, they can start having their meetings and getting things planned and so on. So it seemed like the consensus at the last meeting when they met with you was that you wanted to proceed with this. So I had them, communicated that information to them, and that's the contract they sent. It's pretty basic.
Yeah. County agrees to pay Upper Explorerland, excuse me, an amount of $2,682 for the completion of goal setting process to include the following scope. So it comes at a cost of $26.82.
It's pretty straightforward, but it wouldn't hurt to just wait until Steve and Mark Halder are both here and we can address this early January. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would.
I'd like to give them time to go ahead and get started. I mean, if we keep pushing it off, we'll be into March. And I think that what we're looking at, Mark is, I think pretty well along with it. I've looked at all of their contract. I think what they're doing is fine. All we're doing is getting them initiated.
I think the idea is that you sign this now, they'll start preparing the communications to the department heads and strategic employees and so on, to get that out to them right after the first of the year, or maybe even before the first year, but then it gives them 2 or 3 weeks to respond, the department heads and the key employees, so that then they'll take those responses and start meeting with you. The idea would be from the end of January, early February, when you're kind of wrapping up the budget, then this would be the next big project. We talked about timeline a little bit. I did with you, with Upper Explorerland. And so if you want to have that be basically your next thing, this is when you sign the contract. If you want, you can put it off, but then that just is going to put off the end further.
I'm just thinking it's the 22nd of December. I don't think much is going to get done before the 1st of January.
Right, but they can get, what they're going to do is they're going to start putting together questionnaires and surveys to the department heads and key employees now, so that they can get those sent out by the 1st of January, so that so that those people can start getting their answers ready for you. If you wait till the 5th to sign this, then it'll be another couple weeks before it goes out, which will be another, just pushes it back.
I'm fine with doing it today too. It makes no difference to me. Do you have any strong feelings either way, Mark? Steve,
moved-
you're ready to go?
Yeah, I move to accept the contract from Upper Explorerland.
Is that a
Was
motion?
that a motion,
Yeah.
Steve?
That's a motion, yes.
Second.
Second, the motion is second by Shirley to agree to the contract for Upper Explorerland in the amount of 2682. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. This is the one we've been waiting for, evaluation report.
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of your meetings are filled with only bad news. So at least I could bring you some a little better news, yes. So it's always hard to know, I mean, the assessor does assessments, but then until we apply the statewide rollbacks, we don't really know how much of those valuations are taxable until I get through this process. So I'll start with a high point. We had a very big growth year. So we're looking at over 9% in both the countywide taxable value growth and the rural taxable value growth. The way the rollbacks work, they try to limit by category. So like residential and agricultural land, statewide, they try to keep that to a 3% growth per year. So if statewide, there's a bigger than 3% growth, they make the rollback bigger to bring it down to something so that statewide is 3%. So usually we can kind of figure around that 3%, but we must have experienced a higher than state average growth so that we were at higher, so that when they applied the rollbacks, we were more in the 9% range. So that's good for us as the county doing the budget. Not necessarily good for the individual taxpayers when they're writing their check to the treasurer's office, but it helps us keep cash flow here because we have a little bit higher growth. Now there is the whole restrictions. So to review those a little bit, the restrictions by the tax law changes 3 years ago restrict the total dollars of property tax that you raise based on your growth and valuation. And so we're in the highest category, which is a 3% reduction. So you can't just take 3% off 9.52 because you're actually restricting based on the formula figures out that you take last year's dollars, multiply it by the increase in valuation, and then subtract 3% off of that. And so it works out to be that in the general fund, we'll have 6.32%, which is $412,549 more than we had last year.
How much is that?
$412,549.
That's the number you sent us.
Yep, in the email. I'm actually reading from that email right here.
Okay.
So that's how much additional money we'll have from property taxes. And there will be other revenue increases in revenue because both the treasurer's fees, which Tim hasn't presented to you yet, but you'll see because they made some changes in those statewide. So collections and treasurer's fees is going to be up. The recorder's office had some increased fees that they're looking at. So maybe those will be up. So you'll have some other additional revenue increases too, to help offset any spending increases. But that's how much new property tax.
And last year we had about 147,000.
Of new money. Yeah,
New money.
that sounds about right. Yeah. So this is significantly better than where we were sitting last year.
Roughly $260,000 more than we did.
Yeah,
How does the veterans and the homestead
yes.
affect
You asked
this?
that, so I brought those numbers along. So the changes back when they changed this, which you can kind of see in that FY 25 figure, probably on the history, when we had little to no, or actually reduction in rural and little. So when we used to have military credit, it was called. And so that was a credit that people who qualified for it would get off of their property taxes, and the state would reimburse the county. In this tax law change, they got rid of that program. They did give a military exemption, and the difference between credit and exemption is to the taxpayer, it doesn't make much difference. Their tax bill is lower. To the county, the difference is that they just take that value off of our taxable value. So we don't get any money back from anybody for that reduction. So not only did they quit giving the county the credit money, they also increased the amount of each credit, because when they put it into an exemption, they over doubled it. So that took a bunch of taxable value off of our total. And they also, at the same time, introduced the new over 65 homestead exemption. So anybody can qualify for homestead credit. That's a credit. So you get an amount off your property taxes that the state reimburses to the county and the cities and the school districts and so on. But that's over 65 is a exemption. So that's an amount of your value that's subtracted off your taxable value. So that's not replaced. It's just lower taxable value. So
All that was implemented.
all at the same time, and about the FY 25 budget cycle, which is why that year we had much lower taxable value growth, because we maybe had some growth, but then they gave all these exemptions that reduced our taxable value. So the total now is just under 15 million of taxable value exemptions in those two programs. So about 15 million of our,
It's already reflected in.
it's
the numbers.
already reflected in this. But I did bring my chart to show what it is before the military and new homestead and after. So
Thank you.
so yes, so this is already included in here, but this would have been 15 million higher if it wasn't for those two programs. So that's what that,
Which isn't a huge
it
percentage.
isn't a huge percentage, but it made a difference.
Mhm.
The supplemental fund is the fund that we have that it doesn't have restrictions on the levy rate. Instead, it has restrictions on what we can use that month, spend that money. So supplemental fund is going to be things like health insurance and property insurance and IPERS and FICA for our employee benefits and emergency management, running a court system, things like that, that it has very specific juvenile justice, kind of thing. Anyway, specific things that can be that can be spent out of the supplemental fund. So that isn't restricted in the levy. So that we're going to have a 9.52% increase in our base, but we have those the 911 towers, so 900,000 that we've been spending per year for the last 3 years that we don't have to spend next year. So that combined with a 9.52% value growth, we should have a significant reduction in our property tax rate in the supplemental fund. So that's the good news for the taxpayers.
You can lower that levy
We'll
substantially.
be able to lower that levy substantially. And then this is something we talked about a few weeks ago. I think we take a one-time boost for the health insurance fund out of that, since we have a good year this year. So instead of seeing whatever it is, 10% reduction in the tax rate, maybe we get a 7% reduction in the tax rate this year, but to the top property taxpayers, but they still see a reduction. We get that fund leveled out and we move forward then in a better place in that fund. So I think that's a very good, because that one in the supplemental fund, we're benefiting from two things. We're benefiting from the increased value and the 900,000 911 towers being paid. That we'll be sitting really good in that fund.
On that note, are they still looking at that down on a state level for the levy control of the supplement?
I don't know what the status is on that. I know that the emergency management commissions have been lobbying for just having their own levy rate.
Yeah.
Kind of like the hospital or the assessor's office or something,
Yeah.
you know, they have their own levy rate that they set, and they've been lobbying for that. I don't know if that will go anywhere or not. I mean, from property tax payer perspective, makes no difference. If you're levying it and then giving it to them, or if they're levying it themselves,
Yeah.
it works out the same from the property taxpayer. I think that there are boards of supervisors that don't work as well with the emergency management commission as you do, that they like to keep some of the authority of how much money the emergency management commission is spending, because they feel if they don't have some control over it, that they will do excessive spending. So that's why there are boards of supervisors that want to keep that authority to kind of keep a hold of the purse strings, as you might say. So I think that's why it's still kind of stalled out in the legislature. But
Quick question as we go through the budget process over the next couple months. When and why not have a discussion about putting some of that extra away for improvements to the courthouse that we know are going to be astronomical?
because it's the supplemental fund.
Okay.
Cannot be spent on
On
buildings.
infrastructure.
Can't be spent on buildings. It's restricted to very specific things.
General fund is the only one you can use on infrastructure.
Yep.
Well, we used to have an infrastructure fund.
We used to have extra money in the general fund. The years where the board chose, instead of lowering the levy because of increased value or other spending going down, it was actually it started when the mental health spending was getting restricted by the state. Rather than lowering the levy those years, the board left the levy the same, took that extra money and put it in an infrastructure fund. And we used that the first year. That was big deal the first year, because that map over there, the roads, we had one of those up in the board of supervisors office, and we had a little like arrow sticky note on every closed bridge in the county. And the thing looked like it was a dartboard or something. We had like 15 closed bridges and no way to afford to fix them. And a lot of them were just smaller, because if they aren't at least 20 feet long and have at least so many cars a day, then the feds don't help. And so a lot of them were these small culverts on little used roads, but because there was no money to fix them. And so that first year they took the infrastructure money and fixed half a dozen of those. And then the next year they did another half a dozen, and that helped clean up that situation. Because those small bridges, the only funding source they had was local property tax money, and we didn't have any. And so that was where we used our first infrastructure funds. Actually, that was the second one. The very first infrastructure fund wasn't actually, we never called it the infrastructure fund, but the first road project we did out of the general fund was when they were building the bike trail and they needed to go under Middle Kelmer Road. They needed a culvert that they could ride the bicycles through. And so the county, the supervisors didn't want to give specifically, we're going to give X amount of money to the bike trail itself, but we needed to do some work on that culvert anyway. So we made it bigger than maybe we needed to, and so that they could use that as their under. So that was like an in-kind contribution to the bike trail by putting a culvert in there that could have bicycles go underneath. And so that was the very first road project spent from the general fund in the last at least 20 years or so that I know of. So,
Sure appreciate it.
yeah.
So just to clarify this, our evaluation goes up 9.52%.
But our actual property tax is 6.32.
Yeah.
So now the rural fund.
So they're gonna just get taxed on the 6.23%.
Yeah. Yep. The rural fund, so the rural fund operates under the same restrictions. We're only looking at property taxes for properties outside city limits. So that property is going up 9.33%. But when you figure the limitation into that, it's going up 6.15% for property tax, which is $109,582. Now we enjoy one of the lowest rural fund levy rates in the state, or at least in our area of the state. I haven't compared statewide, because when the county passed the local option sales tax, and for the rural areas, each city passed their own, and then the rural residents passed it. And the cities, and on those ballot measures, it designates what they're going to use that money for. So that you can't just change that. That goes to a vote. And 65% of our 1 cent sales tax goes to rural property tax relief by ballot measure. So 65% of our 1 cent tax just goes into our rural fund to replace rural property taxes. So that's why we have such a low rural property tax levy. 35% on our ballot said for general county betterment. So the Board of Supervisors has the authority to designate what general county betterment is, although it has to be a rural expense. It has to be something authorized under the audit of the rural fund to spend it as general county betterment. But for the last 10 years or so, we've designated road improvements as general county betterment. So we've been putting that 35% towards our road department. I did have one of the board members ask me, well, can we use that money for something different? Like, could we put more of it to the roads and then give more property tax money to the roads? The only way to change what you use that, how the way you use that money, is to go back and submit it as a ballot measure again. The issue is when you submit it as a ballot measure, if it fails, then you lose, you don't have 1 cent sales tax anymore. So you take the risk of losing it completely by trying to change the way it's designated. So that's, when that's been brought up in the past, the board is like, okay, well, we are going to take that chance. We're just gonna.
So right now, it's designated that way, 65.
5% is rural property tax relief. So that directly
That would
offsets.
have to go back to the ballot to
Yeah.
change that 65.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Can't do that any other way. So, which, you know, doesn't sound too bad. The 6.15% increase in property tax revenue in rural fund doesn't sound too bad, other than our two biggest expenses in the rural fund. Well, the one very biggest is the money you give to the road department. And one of the other big ones is the money you give to the libraries. And both of those things are based on your total rural valuation. So both of those things are going to go up 9.33% if you continue to fund them the way you have in the past. So $109,582 of new money doesn't even come close to funding those increases. Just the increase to the roads is $258,755. So the new property tax money won't even do half of what you're going to be
Given to the roads.
giving to the roads with the property tax money. Now, that being said, we have seen the last 2-3 years steadily kind of growing local option sales tax revenue, which 65% of that is going to offset. So it might not be a, you know, it's not going to be this year, this maybe isn't going to be a problem. Maybe in the next couple of years, it won't be a problem. But I anticipate whatever property tax reform comes out of the state legislature, they're going to no longer tie the transfer of, to the road fund, to your valuation. They're gonna tie it to your rural property tax levy growth, because it's not sustainable to keep having that grow at 9 or whatever percentage, and then, but your levies keeps going down a little bit. It's not sustainable long-term to do that. Similarly, I don't think it'll be in part of the legislative rules, because right now the requirement for rural fund contributions to libraries is 6.5 cents per thousand or whatever, and you're doing 18 cents per thousand, so.
Hey, our requirements, what we're required to give.
Yes.
What we
Do
are
two different things, so you may need to, if there's,
Percentage down. a little
yeah,
bit.
you may need to actually go back to that contract with the libraries and say, we, you know, if you don't mind spending the kinds of dollars you are right now, but rather than tying it as 18 cents per thousand of value, maybe we tie the annual increase to our limited property tax. So instead of giving them 9.33%, we would give them 6.15% increase.
just basing it off a different number.
Yeah, basing it off a different number, because that isn't the biggest chunk of your rural fund, but that's still unsustainable long-term to have theirs increasing at a higher rate than you can tax. So that would be something you'll have to think about with the agreement you have with the libraries. Now, one good thing is that you do have it in the library agreement, you even give them annually more than what the agreement actually requires. So you have the 18 cents per thousand that's required by the agreement. You've been giving them each library a little bit more to help cover other expenses. So you do have some wiggle room in that as you go forward, because maybe you'll give them, instead of 2,500 more, maybe you give them 1,500 above, and then it works out better or something in the short term.
Comes out to the same.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I have for property tax valuation report. I do ask for an approval of the valuation report, and there are several different steps of property tax valuations, whether it's utility valuations, property tax valuations, homestead credits, family farm credits, those kinds of things that all require board approval. So I lump all those into this one motion right now and say that the board's approving all of these things that are related to property tax valuations. So I would like a motion to approve that, including not just these numbers, but all of those things that I've put.
I move to approve all the property tax evaluation as recommended by Ben.
I second to approve the valuations.
We have a motion and a second to approve the valuation reports. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, we have any more budget discussion?
No more budgets this week.
Okay.
There's
We'll
one thing,
have-
if anyone noticed the press release from the governor over her intentions of more property tax relief and focused on, it appears primarily on our portion of the levy that is on the tax bill only, and making that a legislative priority from her office, that we may have a breath of fresh air this year, but it is going to be quite an
Yes.
interesting thing of what comes out before the end of session in Des Moines this year.
I agree. I think that we lucked out, we dodged the bullet this year, but it isn't going to be, we're going to be this lucky every year, so.
Because the evaluation ain't gonna see another 9%.
Yeah,
That ain't gonna, no.
probably not.
It's gotta be peaking out here and leveling off of it.
Yeah, basically, the rollbacks and if you have time, I'll talk about the history. The rollbacks, some people wanted, that was in a proposal last year, was to limit the rollbacks. The reason the rollbacks were initially put in place is that property values can traditionally fluctuate. So they're going up and down and up and down, kind of like this, whereas the taxable value, we don't want that to be fluctuating like that because we like consistency at the county level. So if you're at 60% rollback this year, and then the home values go up 10%, then they make the rollback be something like where you get taxed on 53% next year, so that the taxable value only increased 3%. And then property values go down 10%. Well, then they still do. So now you're down to something like you'll have 66%. So your taxable portion goes up 3%. And then property values up here going like this. And whereas the taxable portion is this nice level line with a 3% increase statewide. That's why they put the rollbacks in there, so they can do that on a statewide basis just to keep it consistent. So as long as you have a big gap there, this can be going like this, and this is just slowly climbing. If these ever get close together, then that rollback might end up start going like this, because you can't, there's not that wiggle room, exactly. And it's the same, that same procedure works for residential values is the main one. And ag values are also tied to a rollback like that. Theirs is going like this, but isn't based on the price of land. It's based on the productivity and commodities prices. But it too goes like this. And so that's why ag land just grows at this kind of steady 3% statewide. Industrial and commercial values are not related to that. And utility values, I don't even know how those are figured, because those are figured, our assessor doesn't do those. Those come from the state Department of Revenue.
And that ag line, that's a 5-year average.
5-year average of commodity prices and productivity, and it makes that kind of wiggly up above. But our rollbacks we're paying, I don't remember the exact numbers, but a residential property is like around half of like 54% of the actual value of the market value is what you're paying for property taxes. And this year, I think ag land values went up quite a bit on the assessed end, because the taxable value is down like 46% or 44% or something on the taxable part, because the upper end went up. So that's why I don't think any proposal from the property tax reforms that gets rid of rollbacks, those are not good ideas, because it will put a lot more fluctuation in those valuations. So the other thing that in those property tax reform bills that has been talked about, which I think is a good practice, is that you use your restriction, however they want to put their restriction in place, whether it's percentage growth or whatever, on existing properties increases. So if you get reassessments and those go up, but you restrict it to 2%, but the portion that's new properties, new construction, isn't included in that. And that's been proposed. And we've actually been filing a new construction report with the Department of Management for 2 years now, so they can look at new construction separate from existing properties. Because traditionally, the way counties, if they were seeing kind of a flat line on their property tax, the way they could encourage or to increase their revenue was to encourage businesses or, more construction in their county to increase the tax base. Well, in the current system that was passed 3 years ago, the more you increase your tax base, the more restriction you get on the top side. So you actually get penalized some for having lots of new construction, which is not the way it should be. So they need to separate those two pots of valuation so that you can still encourage new construction and have it actually benefit your county, whereas you're keeping the restriction on increases for people who were already there at the same, at this smaller rate.
How long does new property stay? New property is the separate basket before.
The first year it gets added into the valuation, it would then be not restrict your growth. I would think it's the way you would do that. So for that first time, because you want as much new construction as you can.
Then after.
After that, you would always have to maintain that, you'd always have to, that would be in one basket, and then each year you'd add a new basket for new ones. So that you could, but then all of the old baskets would then have a restriction on those going forward. It's just that first time you want to be able to collect that. That's the whole point of trying to get economic growth in your county, is to get new property tax. Yeah. Which the current system kind of penalizes. So
How long is that 3% rollback? Like
I don't know. It's been as long as,
decade?
yes. Okay. I've been in county government for 30 years, and it's always been here for my
So
time.
that concept
Yes,
has been useful. for
yes,
a number
very useful. Yeah.
Okay. Committee reports? Shirley, you probably have a couple.
I did not bring the notes. Winneshiek County Development Tourism wrapped up another successful year. A lot of grant money coming in. The team down there is fantastic. I sent you the next 4.
Yes, and
Meetings.
one of those has since changed.
Yeah. So, not more than that right now.
Shirley was gracious enough to, she was gonna be there anyway,
It was fine.
but Thursday I was a little under the pot, under the weather, let's just put it that way. So she went to the Winneshiek County Development Tourism meeting.
We also talked about the makeup of that meeting and making sure that we bring in, new energy and new businesses and representing all industry, healthcare, business, ag, education, to just take another look at the board and make sure the board is full and healthy and always up to date.
Because there have been a lot of people that have been on the board that really haven't participated
Right.
in anything over the last few years.
So they're looking at not revamping necessarily, but making sure we keep it a sustainable, healthy, active board. There's a great discussion around that.
Anything else?
Oh, yep. Consent.
I know,
Okay.
I meant for committee reports. Okay, otherwise, consent agenda?
Got the minutes, the claims, and the BA monthly report.
I'd move to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
Motion is second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign.
Minutes, and did someone grab one to sign out of the claims basket there?
I think it's sitting on top.
We all find it here.
Oh, okay, good. That happened.
Anyone have anything else? Oh, before we go, we have a Christmas card from Vesterheim Norwegian American Museum. If anyone
Thank
wants
you.
to see it. Other than that, I think that's the last note.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Just second.
The DHS building out there, how long are we gonna table that, or are we gonna pursue moving that? Cause I would say if we're gonna look at moving it, we want to be doing it here shortly, so people know by spring if they're looking to do something or whatever.
I did have a call from that developer that presented to you about, that wanted to put the,
I've even had one in the past that put a bid in and contacted me once too.
I told him it's still up in the air right now, so. Want me to add that to the next agenda to
Put it on
discuss
there
the
so we
more?
can at least discuss it,
Yeah, cause I mean, you know, spring will be, it's around the corner. If somebody's looking,
Yeah.
if they want to do something, we'd have to pursue it and put it out there, because right now it's costing us money sitting there doing nothing. I mean, yeah, we're heating it and whatever. It's ridiculous what we spend on it and
Well,
just sitting there.
let's hash it over at the next meeting.
Yeah.
I think everyone may all be there. It makes it a little
As far as
easier
we
to
know.
talk. So we did have a motion from Shirley and a second from Steve for adjournment. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good holiday.
Merry Christmas all.
Stay warm, Steve.
Yeah.
Don't take cookies or kolaches to go here, otherwise I'll set them out for anyone in the courthouse to grab.
When does Lindsay be back?
Before J1.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Line sitting on the counter figures. Oh. Think I can bring you.
Could we take these into the courthouse for everybody in this?
The cookies, that's what I'll do, yeah. I'll take them in and send out a note for departments to stop by our office. That's up to you, depends on if I'm gonna need to look up any information, or if you think it's things I know off the top. Okay, then we can do it here, that's fine.
Before you close it.
I was just gonna make it a little
Perfect.
easier to.
I'll get rid of this bag.
Okay, sounds good.
They're cherry.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, that looks delicious, but I am on a strict diet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody see it, eat.
Yeah.
Taking that to the courthouse, I hope.
No, I'm guessing he's,
He's taking it home.
I think so.
I don't know for sure, that's my face.
So first off, on the valuation, real quick, if you could just summarize everything you just said into the.
A neat snippet, we saw, I would just say
Have a
that,
great holiday, Dan.
that we have, value, total taxable valuation growth.
All done.
All done, Fatima, thank you. I'll get you a flash drive for that other meeting of a little over 9